Hello, and welcome to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast with astrologer Shelley Overton.
Hi, and welcome to the day after Thanksgiving edition of the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast. And so it's November 25th. Happy birthday, Courtney. I'll just give a shout out there and welcome. Did you have a good Thanksgiving? I hope so. Mine was interesting. I went out with my family and ordered a vegetarian meal, and for some reason completely forgot I was vegan. And the food arrived with dairy all over it, so I had to send it back. And I just, for ease, ordered a glass of wine instead. And that's what I had out with my family. I got home and I had leftover spaghetti. So it was an interesting Thanksgiving. So this week we're going to go over what's going on in the sky currently and upcoming aspects. And we're going to talk a little bit about Neptune. So stay tuned for that. Okay, I have put up a chart for 0 degree Aries rising, which is a natural chart. It means that we are looking at every single house as an equal house, and it starts with Aries and ends with Pisces, which is a natural layout for a chart in astrology. And I did this because I just find it is a little easier to understand if you're new to astrology. And I haven't really paid much attention to the news lately. I have been watching World Cup soccer, which is something new for me, but finding the countries I like and rooting for them, it's a lot of fun. And I set up this chart for a natural wheel, which means that you have 0 degrees Aries on the horizon here, and that puts everything in alignment with a chart the way it naturally is set up when you start studying astrology. And I thought it was easier for you to interpret that way. So that's what we're going to do today. And 0 degrees Aries shows that there are no, well, this chart doesn't have Chiron, but Chiron is in Aries right now. And it's got the moniker, the wounded healer, but I'm kind of getting annoyed with that moniker because I feel as an entity, it doesn't really flesh out the full range of archetype that that particular body in the heavens has. And I've tried to bring some of it in other podcasts. So I will add to it right now. It's where we look for an expansion of interest in the humanities. So learning more about world events or studying the arts, studying music, literature, poetry, all of that. So it brings in an interest in some of those things as well. And that I think is nicer, so to speak, to the entity of Chiron. And yes, it is also an archetype of wounding and where we look to try and heal, but we have a difficult time healing. The wounded healer archetype refers to whatever we have been wounded in, whichever area that falls in our chart. It brings out those emotions and those feelings on a very deep, deep level. And because of that, we don't necessarily, through mythology, we don't necessarily get over the wounding, but we learn to deal with it and help others with that same type of wounding, and also expand into the humanities and the arts. But if you have that in your chart, you are in a Chiron return. So Chiron is at 12 degrees and 18 minutes of Aries currently. And so that would put it in trine to Mercury. Maybe part of the air energy will contribute to overcoming some of the wounding that we may have felt with the Aries energy. It is interesting, though, I mentioned the World Cup because the fire signs rule things like this event. Athletes are Aries and they can also be Sagittarius. Aries really does like physical activity and tends towards things more like martial arts, but they are very physical. And then Sagittarius is really an athletic sign. We use our legs. We like to run. So it's not surprising per se that the World Cup is happening with Sun, Venus, Mercury, and today the moon is in Sagittarius. Yeah, all that energy going into athletics and seeing what's going on with that. There's an opposition, though, to Mars, and Mars, of course, rules Aries, and Mars is in Gemini, which is a mental, analytical, verbal energy. And so there may be information coming out, especially right now with the moon. And then Mercury is not exactly in tight opposition. It's an 8-degree orb, which does mean it's in opposition at the very early degrees. But as it continues to move through Sagittarius, it will go in opposition to Mars, which is a bit of a difficult situation because Mars in Gemini answers to Mercury, as Mercury is the ruler of Gemini. As Mercury goes further and further into the sign of Sagittarius, it comes into opposition with ideas and action. So Mars wants to take action, but is answering to the ideas, and that would be Mercury. Mercury normally enjoys an analysis and process. In Sagittarius, Sagittarius wants to just act and go. Because Mercury is in a fire sign and Mars is a fire planet in a Mercury ruled sign, these two planets are very much in conversation right now. And that shows up in our world through travel, transportation, analysis, ideas, contracts, thoughtfulness, lack of thoughtfulness, and then also how we take action based on all of that. So we're seeing that here in these planets moving into a direct opposition. Moon has been in opposition over the course of the last 24 hours to this energy. So we may have seen a precursor to that on Thanksgiving Day. And, if there were fights or difficulties, stress aspects going on for you on that day, we'll see it again as Mercury goes over these points in opposition to Mars, and then Venus in opposition, and finally the Sun in opposition to Mars. So that occurs throughout this coming month or the next few weeks. And I will point them out in the podcast, of course, as we run across them. And then we have a square with the moon today, but as I said, an upcoming difficult aspect with anything in square opposition to Mercury and also Mars. And currently Neptune is still in square position to Mars and in a square to the moon throughout today. Of course, this goes up tonight, so you can look back on the day and kind of go, hey, this is what happened during the course of the day on Friday, and see how that might relate and might make you more aware of what's to come with Mercury. So today, moon will show us the emotional, it's hidden, but it's also nurturing at times. It's where we are seeking to get more security and surround ourselves with people that make us feel comfortable and make us feel secure. So in the course of Friday, with moon square to Neptune and also Jupiter and in opposition to Mars, this is a big T square in the sky. And so the energy is possibly looking to move because Sagittarius brings that into our awareness. Moon wants to consider the home, but we're considering moving. An opposition to Mars is how we go about taking action on that. And maybe there are two choices that come up because of the duality of Gemini. We're trying to get to the bottom of which path we should actually take. It's going to happen. It might not happen the way you think it will until Mars goes direct in January, which is January 12th, but it will happen. It will happen because right now we have the duality of choice, and throughout the course of the day today, Friday, and like I said, over yesterday, that has been more stressful. It's been really highlighted with the moon in opposition to Mars and square to Neptune and Jupiter. So Jupiter rules Sagittarius, and that also means that Jupiter is highlighting a need for a change based on endings, because Jupiter, 28 degrees of Pisces, is wanting to culminate a story, an emotional story, a sentimental story, or even come to terms with things like death, things like someone leaving our life, or a scenario of a vision for a dream that we had that isn't turning out the way we thought it did, and maybe is past its prime. And so as Jupiter gets to the end degrees of Pisces, he's looking to the future when he goes into Aries, which is around the 20th of December. And so for the next 4 weeks, we're going to really be um, getting more agitated, I would think, partially. We're going to feel this deep emotional ennui or angst arising from wanting to do something, because Jupiter very much drives us to take action, as does Mars. And because they're in square to each other, they're really frustrated, because not only are they not in cooperation, but now that Jupiter's direct and he wants to go forward, he is wrapping up the old story, looking to the new story with the upcoming Aries ingress. And then he's also fighting the ruler of Aries, and also, throughout Friday and coming up in the next couple of weeks, the moon and Mercury squaring to that energy. And so moon in Sagittarius says that I feel at home in transit. I feel at home far away in other places, in other countries, in situations of competition, maybe even because Sagittarius can bring an awareness of the polarity of situations. And so there is definitely this almost tug of war going on between the energies with Sagittarius influence and Mars in opposition. And then Jupiter, in some sense, near Neptune, is acting like a referee. Neptune very much wants cooperation, wants relaxation and peace. It is a seeker of peace. It is a seeker of healing, healing a deep psychological scar or psychic scars, and being much more psychic and aware. Neptune in Pisces brings out our dreams much more strongly. I've been having some amazing dreams this week related to situations in my life that are probably private, and I won't necessarily share those. But also, I think I mentioned that I'd had a dream about my son being 5 years old last week. And so they're very vibrant and real. They seem like reality till you wake up. And so that definitely, if you're a pursuer of the meaning of dreams, you can really get a message from the dreams that are more realistic, because that's when our loved ones and our subconscious is talking to us. So both combination, more realistic because we do a lot of activity in our sleep state, and we travel astrally, we connect to subconscious, and we get messages, we get solutions to problems. Dreams are really an amazing tool if you've never really pursued them in kind of a psychic expansion in your life. Definitely pursue your dreams, or seek out how they can really integrate into your world and give you a deeper insight into day-to-day problems. But the power of Neptune is that it brings up emotions we might not be really processing. It can bring to our awareness things that we may not have known are even going on. Some people have precognitive dreams, which bring to us a vision of what will happen in the future. I feel like I've had one of those this week. But again, if it comes to fruition, I will share it with you. But currently it has not. It's just a vision of possibilities. And so Jupiter wants to expand this. Jupiter, having gone over Neptune, not completely retrograded back to Neptune, but over the course of this year has gone over Neptune in forward motion. But now that he is direct again, he is not going to join up with an exact conjunction to Neptune, but move forward, like I said, into Aries. And so Jupiter moving into Aries next month is going to be quite a big energy around expansion of racism, or expansion of awareness around racism, and what we need to do, because Jupiter is a spiritual seeker. He wants to find solutions, and especially considering that Sagittarius is the sign right after Scorpio. Scorpio digs deep and sees injustice. Sagittarius will bring up injustice and show us in very blunt ways how these storylines do not work for the collective. And so when Jupiter goes into Aries, absolutely look for the things that Aries rules: blood, violence, aggression, racism, or a collective mindset around, xenophobia. It's just where, because Jupiter rules the connection to foreign people, this isn't just going to be like the black experience in America. This is going to be global. It's something we've already experienced so far, the first half of 2022. And so when it comes in the end of this coming year and then is there for, I think, about 4 months until I think it goes in May. Jupiter goes in May of 2023. It's going to bring out some awareness, other things that are Taurian, but we'll talk about that more when that comes. If you're curious, go back to even last week's show where I talk about Taurus, and we'll talk a little bit with Uranus and Taurus this week, but there's a lot that's going on with Jupiter in Taurus next year. It actually goes in, let's just see, it's not, yeah, it is May. Okay, May 17th of next year. And so we're going to really feel that strong Taurus season next year and more tangible things and material awareness and growth. But it'll be interesting because we still have Uranus and Taurus, and so that is still eccentricity around money, eclecticism, unexpected issues coming up around money and tangible goods, fiat currency, cryptocurrency. It is understanding like a collective fashion or fad awareness. A combination of both Jupiter and Uranus in the positions they'll be in, like Jupiter going into Aries is going to expand our awareness of our image and marketing potentials, where Uranus and Taurus is much more superficial in the sense of material goods and, what we dress ourselves as, how we adjust our makeup, and what our face looks like in the public eye. Where Aries, it does rule the head, but it's much more interested in what the image is. So like a Kardashian effect and marketing. Like I always reference Taylor Swift. She is queen of marketing and knowing how to connect with the customer and how to connect with the client and the consumer. So we'll see that a lot in early next year. And then retail is definitely going to get a massive boost, but also shift as Jupiter moves into Taurus next year. And then throughout the course of the year connects to Uranus and the North Node. So this is an awareness of cultures of other people, foreign people, bringing in maybe adjusting fashion to include more types of culture in the upcoming year, bringing in influences from foreign designers. So I think it's going to be a nice melting pot coming in with Jupiter in Taurus and Uranus also there. I do also think that it's going to be more optimistic as Jupiter gets into Aries. So we will be fresh and new and expansive around new beginnings, new awareness of different cultures that we may not have focused on in the past. And then as Jupiter goes into Taurus, it's going to really feed into the energy of Aquarius, which Uranus rules Aquarius. And then that is much more optimistic as a rule. Jupiter is an optimistic planet. Depending on what aspects come in with Jupiter and Aries, it could be really positive or really negative because of that accident energy, the headbutting, the need to make a change through force with Jupiter and Aries. So we're going to see some of that coming in. But overall, Jupiter getting out of a water sign, personally having multiple water planets in my chart, Jupiter expansiveness going into Aries is going to be kind of a breath of fresh air and honestly fanning flames because it is an air sign. So we may find that we are more agitated coming up in the early part of next year and the end of this year. But we have to really expand our awareness of the psychology of why we're angry and really chase the thread to find out what it is that's triggering us. And if we do that, we can grow from it, which is what Jupiter wants anyway. Jupiter wants to expand our awareness in a spiritual sense and really grow from the information that we gather. So Jupiter, which is like a wise one or wise sage seeker in Sagittarius, is extremely focused on spirituality, potentially religion, which I tend to assign religion more to Sagittarius Capricorn, but wise energy coming from, and like shamanism coming from Pisces. So Jupiter and Pisces wrapping up there, we are really learning a lesson about acceptance and inclusion, which is a Piscean realm. And we want to really bring in the collective and embrace everybody for who they are. And then going into Aries, we may find that we're more selfish or want more drive associated with our own agenda and our own needs. So, really wrapping up this last month, know that it is about making your peace with the past, letting go of the past, and really wrapping up the story or having closure for some situation that's happened in the past. Yeah, so looking at the rest of the chart here, we have Saturn in Aquarius. So, of course, he's answering to Uranus and Taurus, and that's a square energy by 3 degrees. That means that Saturn's at 19, Uranus, the ruling planet of Aquarius, the sign that Saturn's in, is at 16. So 19 and 16 are 3 degrees apart, and that gives it a square, but not an exact square. And so Saturn now is moving forward. So he is already 19, which is past the 16 degree of Uranus. And he is not going to be joining up with Uranus again, at least in this cycle, in these particular signs. And so he's moving forward. He will continue moving forward through March when he enters Pisces. And currently, he's really encouraging us to find our soul group, to find the people that clarify where we're at, that make us feel good, that broaden our awareness of things, which can be a group of people associated with technology, with money, cryptocurrency. It can be a group of people that are more analytical or fun-loving or eccentric. It can be a soul group associated with networking. It can be really, Aquarius rules eclecticism. So it's everything and anything. It's quantum understanding, it's genius, it's awareness, it's clarity, clarifying. It is an energy that enhances our ability to channel, which means bring in information from sources that are outside of our physical awareness. So we are awakening to things that we aren't necessarily normally exposed to, but it is kind of the precursor astrologically, looking at Aries, Taurus, Gemini going around the wheel. The progress going through a wheel of the zodiac comes into Aquarius before it comes into Pisces. And so what that does is we go from the last quadrant, which is Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. Capricorn brings us the stability, the structure, the awareness of the collective in a physical sense. Aquarius brings us an awareness of the collective, of others, of the other, of the difference in an intellectual sense, in the mental capacity through neurological synapses and science and quantum awareness. So it brings in a channeled energy of more of a scientific or neurological bent. And then we get to Pisces, which we bring it into our emotional bodies. As the planets go into Pisces one by one, we're aware in different ways of the emotional life, of sentimentality, of psychic connectivity between ourselves and other people. And it starts with Aquarius energy. So Aquarius kind of tickles the knowledge that we are connected and brings in more of an understanding, a quick-mindedness to how we do connect to others. And if you keep in mind, Aquarius is the opposite sign to Leo, and Leo wants to connect in a smaller scale, one-on-one. Aquarius wants to connect large groups and find relatedness in the large storyline, the collective storyline. Saturn getting closer and closer to Pisces means that we're wrapping up the need to talk about science-based understanding, and we're going to bring it more into our emotional bodies, into our psychic awareness. And because Saturn brings things down to earth and more tangible, we will drop that understanding down into the body, but it will make us more sentimental, emotional, psychic, dreamy, maybe more accepting, which is Pisces' talent and strong awareness of how we can be deep feelers and really nurture and enhance the energy of healing. Keep in mind for Pisces, the opposite sign is Virgo, and Virgo seeks healing. Virgo is the ruler of the medical field, medical people, service, and things that can actually feel really hurtful, and it can increase accidents when we have transits through Virgo, because it is physical, tangible, earthy, and Mercury is more frenetic energy in the material, which can make us accident prone. So when we see the Virgo energy and the Pisces synergy, the opposition where they work together as a couple, you'll see possibly the wounding of the health issues through Virgo, or accidents. And then the healing side comes in through universal acceptance and universal love that Pisces really gives to everyone. So if you have planets in Pisces, you are more aware of that psychic connectivity to other people. You may be more susceptible to lacking boundaries and having a harder time telling people no when your heart is involved, when you are sentimental or connected emotionally. It's more difficult for you to break yourself away from things that you care about. And then as the planets transit out of that energy, you go on into Aries, which is much more able to access the drive of self, and not as in the collective, not as codependent as Pisces energy can really be. And all the water signs probably have a certain amount of codependence to them because they are so strongly aware of other people's emotions. It makes it really difficult to understand the boundary between our own and someone else's. So what the counterbalance to that in connectivity to other signs is that the water signs do well with the earth signs because earth gives them the boundaries and the borders. And then the fire and air work well together because they kind of fan flames, and air is energized and takes action with fire. And then fire is increased with the understanding and the knowledge. So action can be taken with the knowledge, and knowledge is given to the action. So those sets of signs, so Aries, Gemini, Leo, Libra, Sagittarius, Aquarius, get along well together. And then Taurus, Cancer, Virgo, Scorpio, Capricorn, Pisces get along much better together. Does that mean you can't be with someone of the other element of fire being with earth? No, you can. You just have to find ways of working together, and maybe other planets that you share that are in those shared signs. So we've got Pluto currently at 26 Capricorn, and that means that there is an inconjunct quincunx energy between Pluto and Mars still. And until Mars goes out of that, well, actually Mars goes into Cancer in March of next year. Let me just look it up for you real quick. So Mars goes into Cancer the 26th of March, and Pluto actually changes signs on the 24th. So there will be an exact inconjunct to the two planets right before they change signs and shift energies to something new. And interestingly, Mars moves into a water sign and Pluto moves into an air sign. So currently Mars is in an air sign and talking to an earth sign, but then when he goes into Cancer, he's in the water and Pluto moves to air. So there will be still the inconjunct energy of Aquarius Cancer with these two, and that'll happen in March of next year. But they are really trying to come to terms with a new way of integrating throughout that time. I will say when Mars gets further along into Cancer and kind of gets away from the energy of Pluto, we'll have a little bit more ease of action, and the major shift for that period of time will have eased a bit. And then when Mars gets into Leo, again, early Leo, he's going to oppose Pluto. And so he will come back into that energy of a storyline around Pluto next year when he goes into Leo. And so that'll be a shift around the cooperation of friendships and the collective. So friendships and storylines of how we cooperate together as a larger group will come into play, as well as creativity and the internet. and how that works. So for next year, that storyline is going to come in later on. Now I'm curious. So let's just see how long it takes Mars. It's not going to be very long. Once Mars goes direct, I mean, he's been 7 months in Gemini. When he goes direct, he's going to go through fairly quickly. He goes into Cancer at the end of March, and he gets to Leo 21st of May. So he's going to end up really touching off in opposition with Pluto on the 21st of May, which will be really a strong story, like I said, around maybe ending friendship or shifting how that looks. It can also, quite honestly, with Pluto going direct in Aquarius, look more friendly, look deep. Pluto likes to go to the depths. Aquarius likes to detach and not do deep emotional things. So it is not going to be a very comfortable energy for Pluto. He is going to spend the next 24 years, which is how long he's in that sign, till 2046. He's going to be spending that time really digging into the psyche of Aquarius. And Aquarius does not like to be understood in that sense. Its sense of freedom comes from the ability to quickly move intellectually and neurologically and electrically from one thing to another. And when you add Pluto, which is by nature a water energy, it is a conductor of electricity, but it goes deep. And so that's not something Aquarius or Aquarians are really used to as a concentrated energy. They are much more superficial and wanting to take the information. I say superficial, they're not necessarily dismissing, like we can't dismiss them, but they don't dig to the emotional depths, which Pluto will show them when Pluto goes into Aquarius next year and back and forth into Capricorn, wrapping up that old story.
Baby, I like you raw. I like you raw. I like you raw. I like you raw.
Hey, this is Shelley. I just wanted to remind you that this Christmas season, please do support small business. You can find my artwork and other wonderful merchandise at shelleyoverton.com. Please stop by and check it out. Thanks so much.
Okay, that's a lot. I'm going to just fly through the week and give you a few highlights. Let's see here. We've got Mercury in conjunct to Uranus and Taurus. So Mercury in Sag is going to want to call the truth out. And of course, Uranus and Taurus takes a long time to really make a decision. But Mercury, quick-minded, Sagittarius, quick acting, is not going to be happy with what goes on Sunday. And then the moon moves into Aquarius and answers to Uranus. So it's going to be a really interesting time Sunday with how things move from doing something quick, which you don't feel comfortable necessarily doing, but the energies are imploring you to take quicker, decisive action. So that's what's going on there. Monday, again, we still have Aquarius. There's a lot of interaction, but a lot of it is sextile, which is 60 degrees apart, and that's very good. And there's a square and a trine. So Monday, the moon is sextile to the sun in Sag, which is really good freedom-loving energy, optimistic and forward momentum. We have a Mars in Gemini retrograde, trining to Saturn in Aquarius, which will bring a lot of intellectual awareness. But Saturn in Aquarius is trying to nail down, and also Mars in Gemini is reevaluating what's going on maybe with technology, how we look at technology, how we look, it's going to be Cyber Monday. Not really liking the energy of that, because at 12:56 p.m., which is, just before 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm going to tell you there could be a major crash and burn of systems. Saturn is restriction, Mars is action. Mars is retrograde. Saturn wants things to move forward and have some tangibility and reliability. Mars has none of it. So there is a splitting of the energy and even a multiplying of the energy on Monday. So I think we're going to have some difficulty in the early afternoon Eastern time with Cyber Monday. So look for technological issues. I'm sorry to say. So I would even say what happened with the Taylor Swift Ticketmaster thing has a chance to rear its ugly head again on Monday. Just be prepared. There's a sextile with the moon in Aquarius to Chiron at 1:18 p.m. Eastern and to Venus in Sagittarius. So two air to fire energies, one at 7:40 p.m. with Venus. So there's some good forward momentum with love, with money, connecting to the collective, cooperation and ideas. Lots of interesting ideas coming in, especially about home. And then at 7:48, 8 minutes after the sextile to Venus, we have a square to Uranus in Taurus with the moon. And so that's going to be kind of a reiteration of the technological glitches going on earlier in the day with Saturn. And then Venus in conjunct to Uranus at 9:19 p.m. Venus, it's foreign energy. So it could also be retail gotten from different places in the world, and whether or not that's going to get to you. And then in conjunct to Uranus in Taurus, of course, it's the body. This could also be more information coming in about what's going on with COVID in China. And maybe even other countries could potentially be a spread of that energy, spread of the disease, because it is an inconjunct energy, and Taurus, which is the body. Sagittarius is action, and it's also the I don't know when the World Cup ends, but there could be something going on with women associated with that storyline, being that it's in Qatar, and you never know. Moon sextile Mercury to Sag right after that at 11:26 p.m. on Monday. So that's going to be about taking more decisive action. But again, it's like the same kind of energy. Mars in Gemini trying Saturn in Aquarius, and then Moon in Aquarius trying Mars in Gemini. It's kind of similar energy in 3 points throughout the day. And then it ends the day with Moon joining Saturn. So that is the decisive action. And then the moon goes void, of course, overnight. And when it goes into Pisces the next day at 7:15 p.m., so all day on Tuesday, we have a trine to Mars with the moon, and we have a conjunction with Saturn influencing the day. And those are really the primary energies until 3:30 p.m. on Tuesday, when Mercury is in opposition to Mars in Gemini. And so even into Tuesday, we're going to have difficulty with technology. So just be aware of that. Finally, in the evening at 11:18 p.m., we have Mercury in Sag sextile to Saturn in Aquarius. And that's going to be a really good energy for communicating ideas and understanding something that you may have come into an awareness of. Saturn in Aquarius is trying to bring the ideas down to a tangible level and create something strong and lasting. And then Mercury in Sagittarius wants to bring information that has been going on, knowledge, awareness of the truth. That goes on overnight. And then Wednesday, let me see if there's anything. That's fairly decent day. 9:37 a.m. is a sun-moon square between Pisces and Sun in Sag. So again, it's sentimental. It's going to feel really connected to our emotions and to the dream state, and also sentimentality of maybe somebody passing, that, it could happen. Every time there are strong Pisces energies, I always think somebody's going to decide to make their transition. But overnight into Thursday morning, Thursday is when the moon is in Pisces. So then everything that was sextile on Tuesday and Monday is going to be squaring up. So I'm just going to give you a heads up for that. The moon squares Venus, it squares Mercury, it squares Mars, it sextiles to Pluto. So in the evening at 6 o'clock, it's going to sextile to Pluto, and then immediately Mercury and Neptune square each other in the evening. So it's going to be emotional, analytical. We're going to have really, because the moon is in late Pisces, it's going to be triggering that Jupiter before Jupiter gets into Aries. It's going to be, I think, possibly the last moon in Pisces before, or moon in sextile in Pisces before it leaves the sign. Let me see. Yeah, this is the last moon in Pisces before Jupiter leaves Pisces. And so it really is that final push towards what we need to let go of at the end degrees of Pisces. So whatever emotional storyline you've had, that's the ending. Yeah, okay. And then Neptune moving in. I'm only going to touch on Neptune moving direct in Pisces because we'll probably talk a lot about it next week. But because it happens right after the podcast goes up next week, I wanted to give you a little heads up because we will start feeling it by the middle of this coming week. And that means that Neptune in Pisces rules water, flooding, emotion, the ocean, everything I've been talking about, sentimentality, photography, creativity, the arts. It is an expansive, emotional, intuitive sign. And so Neptune rules Pisces in its own sign right now. So it is really accenting how we are connected to everyone through our intuition. It's going to show us that with weather events, we're going to see water events. I wouldn't be surprised if we had a blizzard coming up this week before Neptune goes direct, because it seems those always pop up when Neptune changes direction. So Neptune will be changing direction Saturday of next week. So I foresee, and it always seems to happen this time of year lately, when people want to travel and, go on airlines, we've got this energy coming in of Neptune changing signs, creating weather events. So there would be blizzards potentially, or any kind of large scale water event. It could mean oil. And that also means pipelines, oil spillages, house water pipes bursting, breaking, because what happens is you have this tremendous amount of water energy just shifting. So think of the moon on steroids, and probably even beyond steroids. It's all shifting coming up the end of next week. And so we have that amount of water is really putting pressure on the means to contain it. And so we see that. We see when the water comes in the form of weather, so overcast, cloudy weather. Here in Orlando, we've been having a lot lately too, because Jupiter just retrograded, or was retrograded, and went direct in Pisces as well, and that's expansive. So we had those water events coming in. We have the deep emotional shift. And then we also have maybe the moodiness that comes in with the clouds just kind of parking themselves above our heads and the water hanging out in the atmosphere. I know I'm definitely much more psychic, much more, I would say, melancholy with the energy of overcast skies and water coming in. So no, that can be a thing. You may feel more sleepy as it comes in midweek to, I would give it a good week. So from Wednesday of this week to Wednesday of next week, the week after. So I'm saying the 30th through the 7th of December, you're going to have a tremendous amount of energy associated with water and emotions. I've beaten that horse to death. That's your heads up for it. We'll talk more next week and see if it is, in fact, the watery future I expect it to be, or the snowfall coming in. Okay, that's all for the week. Thank you so much for being with me. Please do like, comment, subscribe below, share the podcast if you're so inclined. I'm trying to build my listenership, and I really want to reach more people. So please do be generous and share and like, comment, and subscribe. See you next week, and take care. Bye. Astrology, and it is going to be in the low 80s today, so I'm a little sweaty right now.
To purchase my ebook, Learn Astrology, you can find it at angeliczodiac.com. Hi, this is Shelley. Thank you for joining us this week. To contact me for a private reading, go to angeliczodiac.com under the Readings tab. Background music was provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. Be sure to check back next week and subscribe through iTunes at AstroEnergy Astrology Show.